Oh, this is nice. Yes, so can you hear the birds in the hospital car park? When Jyoti asked me to do this talk, I thought, how on earth am I going to write about kissing the earth? Because I was working a lot, not outside very much. I was in the hospital all the time, and I thought, yeah, how do I kiss the earth when I'm just surrounded by humans in a building? And I came up with the title when I was writing this on my breaks, sat in the car park. Yeah, and there was this phrase from Extinction Rebellion, which I didn't like for a long time. I found it quite cringy. But it just keeps sticking with me, and it's, we are nature defending itself. So I love that, we are nature. And I was playing about with it, like human nature, Buddha nature, we are nature. So yeah, I'd like to talk about my journey to resting into that human nature, into the real goodness of humans, but also the sadness and the heartbreak, like the heartbreak of what it is to be human. And this human predicament, how it can help us to care deeply for ourselves, for each other, for the earth. Trungpa Rinpoche says that to care deeply in this way, to arouse an awakened heart, is to begin with a broken heart. So I've worked in healthcare as a carer for about 9 years. And caring's, it's the only job I've ever known. And I'll qualify as a nurse next June, which is a bit terrifying. And I see nursing as the greatest expression of my Buddhist practice. It's really, it's really an expression of who I am and my values. And these last 18 months, they've been, really deeply painful and profound. And I think it's because it's been so painful and so profound that it's meant I've had to respond to it differently to how I have done previously, to ask for support and to ask for help. So for years I would rush home from work and with like really loud music on, and then get home, put the TV on, eat loads of food, act out in lots of other addictive ways. And my friends would say I was always really brave for working in healthcare. And I just felt like a bit of a fraud. I was like, well, I don't really feel like I'm working in healthcare. I just show up as a body and then try and block it out. And I'm coming to see that they are protections as well. They're protecting my heart. But Pema Chodron, lovely nun, she says, what does she say? She says that to protect ourselves from pain, ours and that of others, has never worked. Everyone wants to be free from suffering, but we go about it in ways that make it so much worse. And I really felt this. And then when COVID happened last March in 2020, everything changed. Like the refuges that I was coming home to, like eating, TV, sex, love, all that kind of thing, they just stopped working. They couldn't numb out my experience in the same way. I was working on a colorectal ward, so all to do with bowels, and on a surgical ward. And our patients were really vulnerable, and really quickly a lot of our patients got COVID, and then we became a COVID ward for the next 6 months. These refuges that I was coming home to, they just weren't quite cutting it anymore. So I started instead calling my mum. So I'd ring her after every shift, and my mum was a nurse for 22 years, and she's a doctor now. And she worked through the pandemic as well, and we'd call each other after every shift. And we just confide and share with each other. About all the funny things and the sweet things that happen day to day in a hospital. Like, there's so many funny things that happen when you work with bowels. But also the sadness, like that real deep bone sadness of caring for people, who were dying in really distressing ways with no one who they knew, often dying alone inside rooms, and just the absolute heartbreak of what it is to do that. And the poet David White, he writes that heartbreak is how we mature. Yet we use the word heartbreak as if it only occurs when things have gone wrong. But it may be the very essence of being human, of being on the journey from here to there, and of coming to care deeply for what we find along the way. I just really love that coming to care deeply for what we find along the way. And I just have a little story of just one patient who just really touched me. It just really moved me. And I don't think I'll ever forget it. It's so vivid. But I went into his room and he was dying as a result of alcohol. He had liver disease, and his two grown-ups, and he was really agitated, and his grown-up sons were in bed with him, and they were just stroking his head and soothing him. And his ex-wife was, heartbroken, telling all of the nurses, all of us, about just what an incredible man he was before drinking. And just the tragedy of that, really. And we would just be there with her, not doing any, there was nothing we could do, but we could just be with her. Working in hospital, it brings you close to them, kind of that real heartbreak. But also, I'm finding it in so many other contexts in my life. Like, it's not just in the hospital. So I've started being in a lot of recovery spaces and just sitting there and hearing people's stories of their heartbreak. And the sadness of that, but also the beauty of recovery, and that being a heartbreak as well. And just recognising, just being with people about how difficult it can be to be a human. Like, it's just can be really difficult. And there's so many contexts that I could talk about how heartbreak plays out. But I think just to recognise that, like, the everyday difficulty of being human, like, we want to be happy, and happiness is often really elusive to us. We'll lose things that we love, and that's really painful. But even just saying all these things, like, I feel a bit softer and a bit kinder, and a little bit bigger by really looking at that suffering. And but I also believe, like, I can't just, like, tackle heartbreak alone. Like, I need support and help, and to be together and to be heartbroken together. And how that looks like on the ward that I work on. I remember we had a 2-minute silence for all the nurses and healthcare workers who died, and we were stood in a circle holding hands around the nurse's desk. It was very Buddhist, actually. We just sobbed together for those 2 minutes, and then once the 2 minutes were up, there was buzzers going, asking for the toilet and this and that, and you just wipe your tears, and then there's just, like, we just all went back out into the world a bit softer and a bit bigger and more tender. Yeah, and with my mum, really confiding in my mum, cuddling her while she tells me about her patients. And then, yeah, being in these recovery spaces and just being like, yeah, me too. I felt like that. I'm with you. I hear you. Yeah. And I had, this morning I had a really strong image of the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara when he looked at suffering. When he really saw the suffering of the world, he shattered into 1,000 pieces. And then his friend, the beautiful Buddha Amitabha, built him back up with his 1,000 arms and placed his own head on top of Avalokiteshvara's. And I just absolutely love that. That just feels like that's the image of what this is, to support each other. Yeah, really gorgeous. Yeah, and I can still feel this resistance even when when I was writing this talk. Like, I really didn't want to be vulnerable, and it's like I can talk about all this, and yet it's still really painful to really keep opening ourselves to the world. But Pema Chodron again, she says that this putting so much effort into protecting our heart, it's deeply painful, and it's a hard habit to break. And while the teachings, they tell us not to bite off more than we could chew, not to get too overwhelmed by the suffering, but we can gradually increase our capacity to be with the suffering, the heartbreak of ourselves and the world. And yeah, just realising that this is one of my deepest aspirations, actually, is to allow myself to just crack open a little bit, to not only allow the suffering in that I've been trying to smother over for so long, but also to allow the goodness in, like that real human goodness. And just a real want to be broken-hearted and kinder, softer, more porous to life, and to do that together. I think I'll finish there. Thank you.